What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Yes, I am going to agree with Pat the NES Punk. Mark this video down. If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell for notifications. And without further ado, let's just get into this. I recently finished watching the video from Karl Jobst that's got the whole retro video game scene up in arms right now regarding Wata games, heritage auctions, retro video games, the value of them, and if there's some serious volatility being fraudulently created by this auction house in collusion with Wata games. It's wild. So if you haven't yet, yes, it's a bit of a watch. It's like just shy of an hour-long video, deep diving on the actual back end, what's going on with this situation. Strongly recommend watching that first. I'll put a link to it in the description below. In this video, I just want to give my thoughts and honest opinions on what's going on from my perspective, being a retro game collector, being an investor, being someone who I'd like to think I'm kind of in the know of the scene of what's going on with it, and just give you my feelings on it. You take it or leave it for what it is. So first off, this is unfortunate. It is. It genuinely saddens me to hear that there's a group of very wealthy people influencing the value of retro gaming fraudulently, like manipulating the prices to their benefit to make as much money as possible and get out while the getting is good, and leave whoever is falling for it to just be holding the bag, just like the stock market. It's not very different. The video from Karl Jobst goes more into the details of the scheme behind the scenes, the bubble that's being artificially created right now, and how they plan on executing this diabolical plan, which it is. That's genuinely how I feel about it. I am, like I said earlier, a collector of retro gaming. If those of you who have seen my video previously, I think it was a couple years ago, I was in my parents' basement looking through all my retro games in Massachusetts that I just left there. But for the most part, there are so many different ways to play these games and play them with a better controller, play them in ways that they never thought you'd be able to play them nowadays. So I'm wondering, do I bother every time I come back to Massachusetts filling up a suitcase with retro games, bringing it out to San Diego and piling it into my house out there? Or am I at the point where I'm like, I have too much stuff at my house. I have too many retro games. I don't have time to play the games that are coming out now. Never mind keep up with the retro games that I have in my backlog that I haven't even played yet. It's a really weird first world problem to have, and I'm really at a loss right now. My life is so busy right now that I don't have time to just pop them in and play them, and when I do, I just usually go to the more convenient route of emulating or playing on the emulation versions of them with the SNES Mini or NES Mini, PlayStation Mini. Like, all those are available, not to mention the plethora of availability options regarding all these retro games on my PC. So I'm not going to go into the legalities of that, because that's not what this video is about. It's more of the what's happening with the retro game pricing in the market, and how people should feel, how we should react, what's going to come of this, and what the future of the retro gaming market actually is. Now, I said earlier that it's unfortunate that this is happening because there are genuinely collectors out there that were investing, if you will, in the potential for the value of these games to go up naturally over the course of time, while also being able to enjoy them on their own terms and not have to stress. Like there was an argument to be made at one point where you could buy an old NES game, play it if you want to, but hang on to it in your collection to maybe increase in value and sell it for a profit down the road if you ever hit dire straits and just really needed the money, and at least you'd have that option available. What's happening right now is none of that. It's being artificially manipulated by these businessmen that don't give two craps about the game. They're never gonna, they're sealed games. They're never gonna open them and play them. They're literally using them as a value to sell to make more money, increasing it. Some of the things that they go into in the video that I'm referencing talk about how the same person buys it every couple of years and then puts it back in their collection just to raise the value artificially on it, so that 10 years from now when they sell it to some bozo, they pay 10 times the amount of price for it when no one else actually bought it, but the perceived value is there, so they think it's worth something. That's going to ultimately end in sadness, because there is no intrinsic value to these games other than just the memories people have with them. That's the thing. Like, it's the same thing with coin collecting and comic books and baseball cards and action figures. It doesn't mean anything. I feel like people look at the world of art, like the painting, the period, the Renaissance that they're all from, and they want their hobby to be that, and think, oh, if I hang on to this long enough, it'll be that. That's not how it works. Like, you can't buy something hoping that is what you will hold on to and will be worth a lot more down the road. You have to buy it because you genuinely want it. And from that, I'm seeing a lot of arguments being raised right now between not just YouTubers that were artificially raising the price, if you will. I see a lot of people getting mad at Metal Jesus Rocks, or even Pat the NES Punk or Cinemassacre. But beyond that, people now moving their frustrations to companies like Limited Run Games and things like that, where all these companies are being propped up with the passion of retro gaming and the passion of collecting, and they're mad at them for inflating this artificial bubble. I have to draw the line, though. I mean, that to me is passion. That's different. That's a business coming to fruition due to market demand. It's not something that's being artificially manipulated. It's not being, they literally have all the facts out there. They tell you how many are being created. They tell you how many they're selling. They tell you what the prices are. They tell you what the value is. And then they leave it to the open market, I'd like to think all the time, to determine what the actual value is down the road. Whereas what's happening with this Wata Games and Heritage Auctions, they're working in collusion with each other to artificially raise the prices to unsuspecting people that have money that think this is like the next big thing. And it's not. It kind of feels like a Nigerian prince like email scam, where they're just like, hey, give us your money and save us, and people are falling for it. So a part of me understands how people are like, hey, if people are dumb enough to pay that for these games, then they should be stuck with that loss because they're a moron for trying to do it. And I agree, but the problem isn't that. The problem is the ripple effect that comes from that, crashing the entire retro game scene. Yes, I don't do this for money. Yes, I enjoy my games. And yes, I've even considered selling my games. But then I was like, no, it's not worth it to me. The value of me having them and the memories that I have is worth more than the pain in the ass it is to try to individually sell them or even batch sell them on eBay, things like that. Because I don't care about the money from them. I feel like there's a lot of people that are just getting confused right now with their retro gaming, where they're starting to buy the games thinking they're going to be worth more in the future, so that justifies the purchase now, and then each step up is a stair step to make it more and more valuable until the cliff comes and everyone just sells out of it. And why that's a bad thing is people in the retro gaming community will feel slighted. They'll feel frustrated. They'll get angry. There won't be that camaraderie, like even what the Karl Jobst video goes into with the NES archive, and how that site was shut down by a dude that didn't want people to know the actual true value of these games. They just want to create the market themselves. That in itself is going to destroy the retro market, the retro game scene, the camaraderie, the passion that us gamers have to enjoy these games and enjoy them with each other. So it's a much bigger issue than just a couple millionaires swapping games out to make a couple million more dollars. It goes way beyond that. And for people that don't see the issue with that, I don't know what to say. But this kind of stuff happens everywhere. like I've learned in the investment world, if there is a market opportunity to take advantage of someone, it will happen. But with all that being said, you also have to look at the flip side of the coin with, if this whole market comes crashing down, it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially for those that don't care what the value of their games is. It allows them to more affordably buy more of their games and, in a weird way, return to the actual passion for the crew of retro gamers that just care about the games. They don't care about the money. They just want to build their collections, have something to hold on to, and enjoy it with other people and share their memories. Like, it's not a terrible thing, but it is a frustrating thing when a market is being manipulated proactively, especially if the perpetrators are getting away with it. If there's nothing illegal about their scheme. I think that's what's frustrating me about this, is they're going to get away with this, as far as I can tell, because I don't know the laws or legality. I mean, this Jim dude that got caught in the 80s with the coin scam, he paid a $1.2 million fine or something, and then he just moved on. Now he's doing it again. He's a bubble maker. That's what he's good at. He's making bubbles. And I really appreciate Karl Jobst making this video, calling attention to it, and actually pulling out the facts of saying, all these people are connected and they're hiding it. Their SEC filings show it, but they don't tell anyone. It's sketchy stuff. So it comes back to one of those buyer beware. And the same thing I always say on my channel when it comes to retro gaming. Do it because it's a passion, not because you want to make millions of dollars off of it, because odds are you might end up holding the bag. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, you stay smashing. Smash,